You're listening to the Spark Radio Network, Internet radio like you've never heard before. Innovation, creativity, and imagination are all said to begin with a spark. So fasten your seatbelt and take the ride of your life and listen for the spark.
You are listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
Most writers and radio show hosts know that to connect with your fans, you need to do more than just write books or record the latest podcasts. There are many different elements that go into forming an online platform, but there are also many hidden traps. To make matters worse, solid advice on how to survive the muddy waters is scarce. In the book Hidden Traps, I talk about some of the important issues of working with an online platform, highlighting traps that could put your physical or internet security at risk or be harmful to your reputation. Are your social media posts just links with a few disjointed words, making you look like someone who can't complete a sentence? Did your new website cost you more than you anticipated? Are you leaking your personal contact details across the web without even knowing it? Then you need Hidden Traps. Hidden Traps is now available in paperback and ebook from a variety of retailers, including Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and Kobo. Visit blackwolfpublications.com for more details.
If you're 85 or younger, would you like peace of mind and comfort for your family? We're Final Expense Direct with an urgent message for you. The average funeral today costs over $8,000, but the most you'll get from government benefits is $255. How will your family pay the difference? We can help. Our senior plans start as low as just $1 a day and pay up to $30,000 for a funeral and other final expenses. Peace of mind is easy. There's no medical exam. You'll have lifetime coverage, and your plan can't be canceled as long as you pay your premiums. Call now for free information about our senior plans. Answer a few simple questions and receive approval right on the phone. Plus, call right now and we'll give you a discount prescription card for free. Call 800-553-8687. That's 800-553-8687. Again, 800-553-8687. 687.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
Attention business owners and independent contractors. This is a money-saving message from Tax Mediation Services. If your business owes $20,000 or more in taxes, we can help you today, right now. Listen, dealing with the IRS is no picnic. It's an intimidating and extremely stressful process, and you don't want to go it alone. Our attorneys know every law, every tax break, and every possible opportunity to help you resolve and reduce your tax debt. And if you owe more than $20,000, you may be at the top of their hit list. So don't take your tax debt lightly, because it will not go away on its own. The IRS can seize your bank accounts, your home, and even shut down your business. Call our tax experts today at 1-800-783-0810 and let us deal with the IRS while you focus on your business. That's 1-800-783-0810. Again, that's 800-783-0810.
My son was in the Army back during Desert Storm, but even then he wanted an MBA. He looked at a dozen schools, but only one offered the online education and flexibility he needed while he was in a tent in Iraq, Grantham University. Turns out that Grantham's been delivering affordable, relevant college and advanced degrees for over 65 years. Heck, if they can deliver a quality education to a soldier in a tent overseas, think about the flexibility Grantham can offer you so you can earn your degree too. It doesn't matter how complicated or full your life is. If getting a degree is on your bucket list, you'll want to do what my son did. You'll want to call Grantham. Find out how easy it is to get started on your education so you can check that college degree off your bucket list. Call Grantham right now, 800-910-1370. That's 800-910-1370. Flexible, affordable, relevant. Call 800-910-1370.
Sometimes writers feel lost, unsure why a passage may not be working. It takes another set of eyes to help us nurture our writing into full maturity. At Black Wolf Editorial Services, we strive to enable writers to develop and grow, offering manuscript critiques and line edits through a mentoring editorial style. We also offer assistance on generating a writer's bio for your websites. Black Wolf Editorial Services, nurturing your writing into maturity. For a full list of services, visit blackwolfeditorial.com.
You're listening to the Spark Radio Network, internet radio like you've never heard before. Innovation, creativity, and imagination are all said to begin with a spark. So fasten your seatbelt and take the ride of your life and listen for the spark.
You are listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
My name is Jessie, and I'm proud of the life I have, surrounded by military and aware just how big the world really is. I have a unique perspective on life and the world around us. If you're willing to listen, I'll tell you how I see it, and I won't pull any punches. This is my POV, which stands for Point of View. Hey, it's Jessie. Yes, I miss you when we're not talking. Good to see you again tonight. Don't look at me like that. You ought to know better by now. First, I want to thank all my wonderful loyal listeners. Yes, I know I don't often remember to do that, but I did want to say thank you, especially tonight. Now, just as a reminder, Jessie's POV is available on iTunes, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, Google Play, and many other fantastic podcast locations. All right, the sound I've been forgetting to do at the beginning. Now, I know I said I was going to do fail states last night, but there's a couple of things that the news has brought to my attention today. So we're going to start off with those stories, and if we have time, we'll get to failed states. First, I want to bring up Shireen Ebadi. She is Iran's Nobel laureate. She is done with reform. She is pushing for regime change. Yes, Shireen Ebadi, Iran's Nobel Prize-winning human rights lawyer, has had enough. For years, she has represented her country's dissidents in the Islamic Republic's corrupt courts. She's spoken out for the rights of women, minorities, and students abroad. She has never called for the end of the regime. She was fighting to reform, until now. Now she states reform is useless in Iran. The Iranian people are very dissatisfied with their government. They've reached the point and realized that this system is not reformable. This system is a disaster. Now, I do have a couple of audio clips. Give me a second to track them down. You know me. It always takes me just a moment. But I do want to bring to your attention that Iran has had numerous internal protests. Of course, the Iranians blame it on the United States. This is not surprising. Here's what Nikki Haley had to say about the Iranian protests.
All these brigades have come out to the streets. They've come out against the leader. Political prisoners must be freed. Independence, freedom, Iranian Republic. Neither Gaza nor Lebanon, my life only for Iran. Let go of Syria, think of us. We will die, but we'll take Iran back. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. We're all together. And in reference to the Supreme Leader, quote, feel some shame. Let go of the country. Those are not my words. Those are not the words of the United States. Those are the words of the brave people of Iran.
All right, now what Abadi is calling for is the end of Iranian tyranny, and says it should be a UN-monitored referendum on the constitution that proposes a basic change. The elimination of the unelected office of Supreme Leader. She said the Iranian people want to change our regime by changing our constitution to a secular constitution based on the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Abadi's radicalism, along with the mass demonstrations that began at the end of December, yes, just after Christmas, is a powerful rebuke to the foreign policy consensus among many Western progressives who still pine for Iran's President Hassan Rouhani to deliver on the reforms he promised in 2013 and again in 2017 campaigns. Abadi never believed Rouhani was a reformer. Nonetheless, she said she was reluctant to call for the end of the regime because the 1979 revolution was so traumatic. That's why the current uprising has no single leader. In the course of the struggle, the leaders will emerge. When we have free elections in Iran, leaders will show themselves. That's according to Abadi. Abadi first made her views known when she published a statement in February of this year with 13 other dissidents and human rights advocates to call for the referendum. However, she's now starting to ask for Western help. She doesn't want a military invasion of Iran or any kind of United States interference with the movement itself. The regime should change in Iran and take place inside Iran by the Iranian people. But you can help the people of Iran reach their own goal. What are her ideas? The West should implement sanctions that weaken the regime, but do not hurt the people for themselves. The U.S. and European government should sanction the Islamic Republic of Iran Broadcasting, known as IRIB. This conglomerate controls media in Iran and also manages Iran's external foreign propaganda such as English language Press TV and Arabic Al-Alam. And yes, for full disclosure, I have visited Press TV on more than one occasion. I know that this is a state-controlled media site. That's why I usually cite it when I use it. There are few entities more deserving of censure and sanction inside Iran than the IRIB, which broadcasts a weekly television show that airs the coerced confessions of political prisoners. For Abadi, this is personal. One of those broadcasts featured her husband after he was set up in a Soviet-style sting filmed with prostitutes drinking alcohol. While in Evin prison, Abadi's husband was flogged for drinking and threatened with death by stoning for adultery if he did not confess to the alleged illegal activities of his famous wife. Eventually, he relented. My husband was forced to confirm the alleged veracity of all the charges they regularly bring against me. Abadi's claims that targeting the IRIB is a good way of crippling the regime's ability to attack its opponents and spread its propaganda. She is wary of reimposing some of the most crippling sanctions that were lifted in 2016 when the Iran nuclear deal was implemented. The secondary sanctions on Iran's central bank, she said, benefited figures close to the regime who made a fortune in hiding the money of regime elites. Meanwhile, the average Iranian suffered hyperinflation. European businesses were wise to hold off on striking deals. They are reluctant to invest in a country with no political stability. How can you trust a government when every day in several corners of the country people are demonstrating and unhappy? Her message to the Iranian government: if you want foreign capital and creation of jobs, you need to make people happy. It is important for the U.S. to establish a channel to the legitimate and independent Iranian opposition. However, this is tricky. We all know if we reach out too far, it may very well only sign these people's death warrants. No, that's not Abadi talking. That's your host. I don't want to see innocent Iranians slaughtered in the streets, nor take that trip to the dreadful Evin prison. I've read some of the tales of Evin prison. It is designed for one purpose only. It holds only one type of prisoner, political prisoners. It is designed to produce confessions. It is designed for torture. People are beaten. People are tortured. Is this any way for truth and clarity to be brought about? There are other examples Abadi pointed to, which was the National Iranian American Council, which played an important role in advocating for Barack Obama's nuclear deal. She regrets participating in an event with them in 2011. And when she took a closer look at what they do, what they say is closer to what the government wants. In essence, they are nothing more than a mouth organ for their government. Abadi said she would support a new organization of Iranian Americans to support her country's freedom, an organization that would be independent from the Iranian government and the U.S. government. The goal is to reject the very core of Islamic Republic rule by a supreme clerical leader. Abadi is asking for solidarity. Let's hope Westerners join her. This, as Iran is coming out saying things like making deals with Israel is unwise. Iran, please don't forget this, supports Hamas and Hezbollah. These are terrorist organizations at their very core. Don't forget the Houthi rebels, which regularly launch missiles into our allies' country of Saudi Arabia. And you certainly can't discount the drones that Iran launched from its base in Syria into Israel. This is a direct violation of another country's airspace. But don't forget, Iran doesn't recognize Israel's right to exist. There are so many things boiling up in the Middle East, I can hardly keep track. I may even have to come up with a new scorecard. Oh, and don't forget three of Iran's favorite partners, North Korea, Russia, and of course Syria. It's been rumored that Syria is attempting to build an underground nuclear reactor. I wonder who's helping them. The only country I know with underground nuclear reactors is Iran. North Korea builds them on the surface. Could they be using a combination of technology from both countries? We already know that North Korea sold a nuclear reactor to Iran about a decade ago. This is not news. This is a decade-old audio clip, decade-old revelation. However, it still bears repeating. It still bears repeating because Iran's behavior has continued to worsen. Here's another Nikki Haley audio clip when she's discussing Iranian fingerprints on destabilizing the Middle East.
Aid from Iran's Revolutionary Guard to dangerous militias and terror groups is increasing. Its ballistic missiles and advanced weapons are turning up in war zones across the region. It's hard to find a conflict or a terrorist group in the Middle East that does not have Iran's fingerprints all over it.
Those words are very true. Truer words have rarely been spoken. I must admit that North Korea, the prospect of a nuclear reactor in Iran, scares me. Remember this audio clip? I usually play it in reference to North Korea, not Syria.
10 years ago, the North Koreans transferred a plutonium production reactor to Syria. It was crushed by the Israelis. If it had not been crushed, that reactor could be providing plutonium not only to Syrians, but to others who have traipsed through Syria, and these are pretty unsavory folks. And that's an image that goes to nuclear terrorism we don't like to contemplate. So we need to somehow impress upon the North Koreans that's not a move we want to see again.
Please don't forget, if they build an underground nuclear reactor, very few munitions will be able to reach it, especially once it goes hot, or once it is producing electricity, and of course, along with electricity comes ye old plutonium. Now, I bring up Russia. Yes, Russia is propping up Bashar al-Assad. Yeah, this guy. That's not news either. If you're a regular listener to this show, you also realize Bashar al-Assad didn't even have a seat at the table as Iran, Turkey, and Russia sat down to meet to decide its fate. What kind of a leader can you call yourself when 3 other countries are sitting down to carve you up just like this turkey? Well, I'm not sure, but I certainly would say you're more of a puppet. And don't forget, Syria is accusing the United States of trying to drag us backward into puppet states and trusteeships. Well, Syria, look no further than Russia and your own backyard. You are becoming the very thing to another nation that you accuse us of doing. This is unacceptable. This is, without a doubt, very, very bad for both the United States, Syria, and the entire Middle East. We already have the failed nation of Yemen. And the nation of Yemen failed due to the Houthi rebels. Well, not entirely. They had their own problems before that. However, there is no doubt that the Houthi rebels are funded by Iran. Yes, another one of their proxies. And the Houthi rebels constantly launch missiles and rockets into the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, one of our allies. Now, just today, in the UN Security Council, Russia, the United Kingdom, and the United States all spoke. Let me remind you of the measures that the United Kingdom has already put in place after the Litvinenko poisoning.
Mr. Speaker, following Mr. Litvinenko's death, we expelled Russian diplomats, suspended security cooperation, broke off bilateral plans on visas, froze the assets of the suspects and put them on international extradition lists, and these measures remain in place.
Now, if that's what they did after one poisoning, we know that they expelled far more diplomats again. They've also hinted at a possible retaliation in the cyber world. For whatever reason, cyber attacks do not rise to the level of war. I also want to remind you, yes, again, of Russia's recent hostile actions. It's the best summation I can find, and yes, once again, it's given by Theresa May.
Mr. Speaker, this action has happened against a backdrop of a well-established pattern of Russian state aggression. Russia's illegal annexation of Crimea was the first time since the Second World War that one sovereign nation has forcibly taken territory from another in Europe. Russia has fomented conflict in the Donbass, repeatedly violated the national airspace of several European countries, and mounted a sustained campaign of cyber espionage and disruption. This has included meddling in elections and hacking the Danish Ministry of Defence and the Bundestag, among many others. During his recent State of the Union address, President Putin showed video graphics of missile launches, flight trajectories and explosions, including the modelling of attacks on the United States, with a series of warheads impacting in Florida.
Well, if that doesn't speak aggression and act much like their cousin, North Korea, I don't know what it does. Now, here was the UN Security Council Skripal update that was broadcast just today.
The UK has launched one of the most comprehensive and complex investigations into the use of a chemical weapon ever. It involves more than 250 police detectives. They are supported by a range of specialist experts and partners. They are trawling through more than 5,000 hours of CCTV. They are examining more than 1,300 seized exhibits, and they are interviewing more than 500 witnesses.
That is quite the extensive investigation. Yet Russia doesn't want to take the blame. It tried to cast doubt. Why don't we listen to a clip?
Now, given that there was no threat that this individual represented for Russia, that is obvious. So a number of questions begs to be asked. First of all, if we speak very cynically, why did we have to wait 8 years and decided to do this 2 weeks before the presidential elections in Russia and just a few weeks before the World Cup? Why was he even released from the country? Why eliminate the individual through this strange and dangerous for people around him and such a highly public method?
I'd like to attempt to answer some of those questions, at least the last one. Why such a public method? You wanted the Skripals to die. You wanted the Skripals' death to be noticed and to be a news story on the world stage. You wanted this so that it would serve as a warning to all those who are currently in your employ, that they too will die if they dare cross you, even if you have to wait almost a decade to do it. Why do it in such a reckless way? I don't know. I'm going to say that you didn't want to have to try and smuggle in a firearm, though that would be easily done with diplomatic pouches. But maybe you had someone who flew in on a commercial airline, much as in the Litvinenko killing. Yes, it took Litvinenko 22 days to die, and while Yulia Skripal is recovering, in fact even able to speak, and yet the police officer was affected more quickly, I have a few suggestions of my own as to how that might have happened. Did the police officer, when keying his radio, touch his face or his mouth? Mucous membranes carry toxins faster. If the Skripals only got the toxin on intact skin, it would take longer to absorb. This isn't speculation. This is fact. You get a chemical toxin in someone's eyes, nose, or mouth, it spreads faster. How do I know this? Only through research. Now, here's the second way Russia was trying to cast doubt. It mostly revolves around the timing, but I'll let you listen for yourself.
Those who sought to kill Sergei Skripal and his daughter supposedly chose an extremely toxic chemical substance, so the most risky and dangerous method possible. At the same time, they didn't really finish the job because the two individuals seem to be alive, and Yulia, thank God, seems to be improving rapidly.
Well, I'm grateful they didn't finish the job. Lord knows I don't want them to. Lord knows I don't want people to be held back from doing what they feel is right, no matter what the nation they inhabit is. Does that mean I want someone to commit a treasonous act against my own country? No. I'd like to think that the citizens of this country are happy because they have the Bill of Rights. And while I know many people disagree about what the Bill of Rights actually means and what it stands for, I'm going to accept the words at face value. Yes, there is the First Amendment, which allows me to broadcast to you. There is the Second Amendment, which I deeply hold dear. There are many others. The Fourth, the Fifth. I'm not going to go into it. This is not the time for a constitutional lesson. But it is the time for a commercial break. So, with that note, yes, I'm pulling up some bumper music for you. We will be taking a commercial break. Yes, the full 5 minutes. I need to get some water. Yes, I know it's a little lengthy, but I do ask your indulgence. I will try and run shorter commercial breaks when my days are a little bit shorter, and maybe I have just a bit more time to get things done. Although some days it seems that there's never enough hours in the day, and all I do is run crazily from one to another. What can I say, except I do what I can. See you on the other side.
You're listening to the Spark Radio Network, Internet radio like you've never heard before. Innovation, creativity, and imagination are all said to begin with a spark. So fasten your seatbelt and take the ride of your life and listen for the spark.
You are listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
Most writers and radio show hosts know that to connect with your fans, you need to do more than just write books or record the latest podcasts. There are many different elements that go into forming an online platform, but there are also many hidden traps. To make matters worse, solid advice on how to survive the muddy waters is scarce. In the book Hidden Traps, I talk about some of the important issues of working with an online platform, highlighting traps that could put your physical or internet security at risk or be harmful to your reputation. Are your social media posts just links with a few disjointed words, making you look like someone who can't complete a sentence? Did your new website cost you more than you anticipated? Are you leaking your personal contact details across the web without even knowing it? Then you need Hidden Traps. Hidden Traps is now available in paperback and ebook from a variety of retailers, including Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and Kobo. Visit blackwolfpublications.com for more details.
If you're 85 or younger, would you like peace of mind and comfort for your family? We're Final Expense Direct with an urgent message for you. The average funeral today costs over $8,000, but the most you'll get from government benefits is $255. How will your family pay the difference? We can help. Our senior plans start as low as just $1 a day and pay up to $30,000 for a funeral and other final expenses. Peace of mind is easy. There's no medical exam. You'll have lifetime coverage, and your plan can't be canceled as long as you pay your premiums. Call now for free information about our senior plans. Answer a few simple questions and receive approval right on the phone. Plus, call right now and we'll give you a discount prescription card for free. Call 800-553-8687. That's 800-553-8687. Again, 800-553-8687. 687.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
Attention business owners and independent contractors. This is a money-saving message from Tax Mediation Services. If your business owes $20,000 or more in taxes, we can help you today, right now. Listen, dealing with the IRS is no picnic. It's an intimidating and extremely stressful process, and you don't want to go it alone. Our attorneys know every law, every tax break, and every possible opportunity to help you resolve and reduce your tax debt. And if you owe more than $20,000, $10,000, you may be at the top of their hit list. So don't take your tax debt lightly, because it will not go away on its own. The IRS can seize your bank accounts, your home, and even shut down your business. Call our tax experts today at 1-800-783-0810 and let us deal with the IRS while you focus on your business. That's 1-800-783-0810. Again, that's 800-783-0810.
My son was in the Army back during Desert Storm, but even then he wanted an MBA. He looked at a dozen schools, but only one offered the online education and flexibility he needed while he was in a tent in Iraq. Grantham University. Turns out that Grantham's been delivering affordable, relevant college and advanced degrees for over 65 years. Heck, if they can deliver a quality education to a soldier in a tent overseas, think about the flexibility Grantham can offer you so you can earn your degree too. It doesn't matter how complicated or full your life is. If getting a degree is on your bucket list, you'll want to do what my son did. You'll want to call Grantham. Find out how easy it is to get started on your education so you can check that college degree off your bucket list. Call Grantham right now, 800-910-1370. That's 800-910-1370. Flexible, affordable, relevant. Call 800-910-1370.
Sometimes riders feel lost, unsure why a passage may not be working. It takes another set of eyes to help us nurture our writing into full maturity. At Black Wolf Editorial Services, we strive to enable writers to develop and grow, offering manuscript critiques and line edits through a mentoring editorial style. We also offer assistance on generating a writer's bio for your websites. Black Wolf Editorial Services, nurturing your writing into maturity. For a full list of services, visit blackwolfeditorial.com.
No, I'll stand my ground, won't be turned around, and I'll keep this world from dragging me down, gonna stand my ground.
Thank you for hanging in there with me. Had to take the break. Needed some water, among other things. Now, the daughter of Sergei Skripal is speaking out. She is recovering. Who knows? She may yet leave the hospital. However, I doubt this is the last we'll hear of this. Just as I have another topic that I think we all would like to see an end to, but I found this article too intriguing to ignore. It has to do with Daesh. Yes, Daesh. It was a deep look at how they ran their caliphate. Now, of course, there are many things that went into this caliphate, and there were many new ways of life for the poor people that were trapped there. And yes, bombs fell, people were beat, and there were executions in the street. And who knows what else, what other atrocities occurred that we do not yet know about. But there were a few unique things that I thought I would actually bring to your attention. No, I'm not proposing a caliphate. Maybe just a little more work ethic and some Middle Eastern employers imposing at least a few more rules and some discipline on their workers. There were things that were obviously horrific. With the stroke of a pen, farmers lost their ancestors' cropland, and their sons were robbed of their inheritance, and the wealth of entire families was wiped out. Relationships that were built up over decades were destroyed in minutes. Now, there is a couple things that I find interesting. One of the first things that happened in one of the cities, and I don't know exactly which one, but I'm not sure it matters, was billboards went up showing an image of a woman fully veiled. Then the militants commandeered a textile factory. I think this was Mosul. I'm not entirely sure. Which began manufacturing bales of regulation-length female clothing. Soon thousands of niqab sets were delivered to the market, and women who didn't cover up began to be fined. Mr. Hamoud, who is known as Abu Sarah, or father of Sarah, gave in and bought a niqab for his daughter. As he walked to and from work, Mr. Hamoud began to take side streets to dodge the frequent executions that are being carried out in traffic circles and public squares. In one, a teenage girl accused of adultery was dragged out of a minivan and forced to her knees. Then a stone slab was dropped on her head. Yes, brutal. On a bridge, the bodies of people accused of being spies swung from the railing. But on the same thoroughfares, Mr. Hamoud noticed something that filled him with shame. The streets were visibly cleaner than they had been when the Iraqi government was in charge. The sweet streepers hadn't changed. What happened was the militants imposed a discipline that had been lacking. And a half dozen sanitation employees that worked under Daesh, who were interviewed in 3 towns after the group was forced out. The only thing I could do during the time of government rule to give a worker 1 day suspension without pay. Under Daesh, they could be imprisoned. Streets cleaners of the Iraqi government regained control of Tel Kafar. Residents said that their taps were also less likely to run dry, and the sewers were less likely to overflow. Now, I'm not going to say that workers who are lazy should be imprisoned. But maybe, just maybe, if the Iraqi people put a little more muscle into taking care of their cities, things would improve. People would be happier there. Now, that isn't to say that many other things didn't go horribly wrong. Citizens were stopped in the street by the Hizbah, the morality police, and accused of an offense and were ordered to hand over their IDs in return for a confiscation receipt. The ID was then taken to Daesh's group office, where residents were forced to appear and face judgment. Religious specialists weighed the crimes, filling out a form. After the offender was made to sign another form, as an example of, I, the undersigned, pledge not to cut or trim my beard again. If I do that again, I'll be subject to all kinds of punishments that the Hizbah Center may take against me. Well, there are other things that Daesh considered crimes I don't think most of us here in the West would have a problem with. Although vitamin no, and no as in no from parents, and maybe a few less hours playing with cell phones could help our kids. 13 and 14-year-old boys were arrested. I don't know what their sentence was, but they were arrested for laughing, smiling, or playing during prayers. While I don't want to see children goofing around during worship services for any religion, I think again this is a bit harsh. Now, there's other things that went absolutely horribly wrong. The caliphate made people pay tolls just to ship things from one side to the other. They were intent on making money. Daesh's tax arm reached into every facet of life in Mosul. Households in Iraq were taxed 2,000 dinars per month. That's less than $2 for garbage collection, but it's probably more than some had. And it was 10,000 dinars, about $8 for each 10 amperes of electricity, and another 10,000 for municipal water. However, at least the electricity flowed when it wasn't being bombed out, and the taps were less likely to run dry. I don't know what the current electrical and trash collection rates are. However, I've got to say that while life, I'm sure, under the caliphate was horrific, at least they kept records. Unfortunately, this seems to be a hallmark of dictatorships and oppressive regimes. Come on, can you really say that the Nazis were any less dictatorship? Or that they didn't keep records? What can I say? Things are always horrific, and better doesn't always mean better for everyone. It generally means better for those in charge. No, I don't want to see dictatorship come to this country. No, I don't want better for just those in charge. And no, I'm not trying to make a political statement, and I don't think people should have to live under such oppression. What I would like to see, and what I would like answered, and if any of you know, feel free to contact me. Why isn't there any discipline for workers in Iraq who just are too lazy to do their job? Why don't the workers in Iraq take a sense of pride and joy in their jobs? Is that something unique to American culture? I know teenagers who work at fast food places and people who work at retail and hospitals, and they all take a sense of pride. Yes, we all encounter these people, and while it may not be the job they want or their ideal job in any case, they take a sense of pride and do what they can. For me, not taking a sense of pride in the job you do is just a foreign concept. It's something I just can't understand. Now, I don't know why the Iraqis don't take a sense of pride, but it's clear they seem to lack this Western value. I don't know how we can teach them. If I had those answers, maybe I'd run for political office. Don't hold your breath. I probably never will. But like I said, there were many horrific tragedies under Daesh. There's no denying that. But the fact that the streets were cleaner, potholes were fixed faster, taps more often had water, and sewers more often worked, tells me that these people were forced into doing their jobs. A sense of pride could be that motivation if we could just make them understand it. Now back to Syria, which Daesh was in Iraq and Syria. The U.S. policy towards Daesh is supposedly remaining the same. There's so many things that we hear in conflicting signals. But yet the Pentagon had a press conference today saying they're staying put. And the Pentagon and the State Department said that a longer-term U.S. effort would be needed to ensure Daesh's defeat is a lasting one. And as I was listening to a press conference today, I think that a wise move. Remember what happened when we pulled out before? It was Al-Qaeda 2.0, or Daesh or ISIS, take your pick. We certainly don't need to announce our withdrawal well in advance. And I'm glad that at least President Trump, for whatever shortcomings he may or may not have, is at least not projecting dates will be done with things. Now, I do have one more thing to say about Iran. And then I do have a proper good guys with guns tonight. An investigative journalist, Daphne Galiza, was murdered last year in October. I hate to see journalists murdered. However, this journalist was investigating how Iran was evading sanctions. Pilatus Bank was the answer. Pilatus Bank was not set up to criminally launder money, at least according to them, and they claim they've committed no criminal acts. However, Mr. Sadr has been arrested in the United States and charged on 6 counts of evading Washington sanctions against Iran. Prosecutors claim he organized a scheme lasting from 2006 to 2014 to illicitly funnel more than $115 million from a Venezuelan housing project to Iranian-controlled companies via Western banks. Yes, Venezuela is another trading partner of Iran, Just look at the state of that country. I wonder why they're going bankrupt. Following his arrest, Mr. Sadr was removed from his role at Pilatus and his voting rights suspended. The Maltese Financial Services Authority that runs Pilatus Bank has hired an experienced former U.S. regulator to take control of the bank's assets and stopped all transactions. Protesters placed a washing machine and pegged fake euro notes on a washing line outside the bank's headquarters. It's an amusing protest, to be sure. Mr. Sadr last week pleaded not guilty and was denied bail. He intends to vigorously defend himself. But Pilatus is not mentioned in the indictment, which was just recently unsealed. However, there is no doubt that money was flowing through this bank to Iran if you follow the paper trail. And yet, this poor journalist died trying to uncover the story, and it was held for more than a year. And no, I didn't find this in a U.S. newspaper. Never mind where I found it. I don't need any more dead journalists. You have Google. You can search for yourself. Although I will tell you, it's suspected that Iranians who want to enter the country off the radar with a valid passport simply pick up one in Venezuela. It wouldn't surprise me if there are Iranians in this country right now that this country knows nothing about. We have such a hard time tracking people from certain countries. And this brings me very briefly back to failed states. Why is it such a problem for us to eliminate people from states, well, nation states, countries, who can't tell us if that person is a criminal or not? Why is it such a problem for us to defend our borders? I don't know. But thankfully, the military will be helping out with this. Now, on to good guys with guns.
I never fired a shot to harm one soul. Self-defense is my number one goal. To the politicians, don't be so stupid. I'm keeping my arms to protect my kids. None of the gun laws ever stop the criminal. More CCP's what keeps crime minimal.
Amazingly enough, this story takes place in California. Yes, California and guns. You can pick your jaw up off the floor now. A homeowner shot a man who allegedly tried to break into his Hesperia home Thursday night. The intruder is now in critical condition. Deputies responded to reports of a burglary in progress. Yes, just recently. And they found the suspect, 36-year-old Michael Good, down in the front yard of the home, suffering from a gunshot wound. The suspect tried to gain entry through the front window of the house. The homeowner armed himself when they heard the break-in occurring. As the suspect tried to enter the residence, the victim fired his weapon. The homeowner was not hurt. Good was taken to the hospital in critical condition. His neighbor, Jesus Mejia, said that the man who owned the firearm is a Vietnam vet. And he doesn't see anything wrong with this man defending his home. Even the police say that they're glad when homeowners protect themselves. That's what they need to do in these situations. That's why you're allowed to carry a firearm in your residence. Well, California, I don't agree with your take on the Second Amendment. I should be able to carry a firearm almost anywhere I go. But at least you allow some firearms in some places. By the way to go, Vietnam vets. That is one for you. I have just one or two more things to bring up. And yes, it looks like we may be leaving the Iran nuclear deal. Don't worry about it. I'm not. I think that this deal is absolutely the most atrocious thing we have ever entered into. I think this deal is a disaster, and I'm not sure it could be repaired. But I know that this means people are constantly playing the what-if game. And Mike Pompeo has been nominated to be Secretary of State. How can you put a CIA director into the Secretary of State role? Well, that's not a question for me. All I can say is that Mike Pompeo would know better than anyone. And the fact that Iran doesn't want to see Mike Pompeo in that role only makes me want to see him there all the more. Oh, and by the way, yes, Saudi Arabia may be attempting to very quietly start normalizing relations with Israel. Pick your jaw up. The world seems to be changing. Women are now driving in Saudi Arabia, and they are even opening movie theaters. This is something that has been more than 35 years in the making. I can't explain why the world is changing so much. All I can say is it's about time. Maybe, just maybe, we'll get the much-needed reformation that Islam has not gone through. Christianity's had one, Judaism's had one. Islam is the only major religion that I'm aware of that has not. Yes, I'm only sticking with the 3 major religions. I know there are plenty of others. I'm not a religious scholar. I only know enough to get by in certain areas. All right, folks, I'm cutting tonight just a bit short. I'll see you again on Monday. Don't forget, you can follow me on Twitter at Radio Host Jesse. You can email me at the station at jessiespov@klrnradio.com. And be sure and tune in tomorrow night. I've got a great episode of Jesse's Coffee Shop. It's always fun to hang out in the coffee shop. I've got a few surprise guests coming up as well. You'll have to wait and tune in to find out who. All right, I'm gone.